Right, good morning everybody. I thought I would start because I'm between you and lunch and that's never a good place to be. My name is Rachel McAssey. I am Head of Process Improvement at the University of Sheffield. And I apologise for perhaps not a very creative or inventive title for this presentation, but hopefully it will do what it says on the tin. I have a very particular view. I think that students make our universities special. I think our relationship with students makes our institutions special. I know lots of universities that do lots and lots of research activity, but also there are lots that don't. I am not aware of any university that doesn't have any students. Anyone? Anyone? No. So it is special. I'm not interested today. In fact, I'm quite bored with the conversation about whether they're customers or not. So I don't want to hear about it, quite frankly. I'm bored with it. We have the same arguments all the time. So what's the purpose of this presentation? It's for me to have a little bit of an opportunity to very humbly share what we've been doing at Sheffield. And I feel even more humble after hearing some of the amazing presentations we've had to date, because it is most definitely early days, in my perspective, of what we've been doing. So therefore, I really want to learn from all of you about the activities that you might be doing to engage students in improvement of services, projects and processes. I've started, when I put in my showcase request, I had a plan A for how I was going to do that. Sue came back to me, Sue from UCISA, said, that plan's not going to work in the room we've got for you, Rachel. So I came up with plan B, which relies on really good Wi-Fi. Had a little bit of a wobble about that yesterday. So my plan C was to just get so drunk last night that I was obnoxious to every single one of you and you just wouldn't turn up. But I don't have a hangover and there's some people in the room, so that didn't work too well either. So plan D is to go back to plan B, but I do have plan E up my sleeve. Okay, so just very quickly, a little bit of information about the Process Improvement Unit. We were set up in around about 2012, 4 years. We're a really small team, located in IT, helping, and we have two main areas of activity. One is to run projects, workshops and training for the university. And then the second one, slightly harder, to help the institution embed a culture of continuous improvement. And that's the thing that's really early days for me, 4 years on. And culture does take a long time to happen, and that's my argument every time when I have my annual staff appraisal. We are based using predominantly a lean methodology. Lean principle number 1 is that the customer defines the value in the process or service. So to me, if I'm going to apply lean principles to my projects, then we need to start getting that student voice and that student input into whatever change project we're embarking on. Lots and lots of change managers will talk to you about the importance of the soft skills. And I completely agree. And if we're going to have a soft skill off right here, right now, I will take on the best of you with my soft skills. However, one thing we must also look for in our change managers are people that are really comfortable with data. And I mean data that is credible, repeatable, scalable, accurate. And if you don't have change managers that are comfortable with using that data in order to ensure that our projects, our services are improved and changed without looking at those key data sets, then you're only ever going to get soft, woolly results, in my opinion. And perhaps a little bit of a challenging view, that one of the reasons we engage students in our projects, in the work that we do, is so that we can get that data set. It's nice. We hear some really interesting things as a result of involving students, but actually what it needs to be is a really strong data set for change, and not the only one. So, a little bit of background to the things that we did in the early days. We have projects, predominantly the project work that we did. So for our student-facing processes, what did we do? Well, there will be no surprises to you, I guess. We had student representatives on projects. We tried to get student union sabbaticals who perhaps represented a slightly broader view of a student onto projects. They also have a very specific view, and they're only in post for a year, and they want to have an agenda for change of their own, so we need to be mindful of that. We hold focus groups. Who doesn't? And when we hold focus groups that were well attended, we learnt some really interesting things. One of my first projects was looking at how we paid casual students for work. And I had done a whole load of interviews with university staff who told me about problems with the process and problems with HR, problems with the payroll system, problems with immigration policy, which meant it's really, really difficult. Great, yeah, we can look at all of those things. When we had a focus group with students, what they told us was, we don't know how much we're going to be paid, and we don't know if it's accurate. And nobody had raised this as a concern. We were all absolutely confident that we, as the University of Sheffield, must surely be paying people for the work that they were doing. But students weren't so sure. And actually, when we interrogated that a little bit more, well, it was no wonder. We had two different calculations for working out how we calculated their annual leave pay, both of which came out with a slightly different amount. The different payroll processing dates meant that actually you didn't really know who was going to be paid on what month and how much the carry forward was going to happen. And actually, if there was a pay rise, some students got it and some didn't. So, and nobody else had brought that up. So yes, great. Students tell us really interesting, useful things. However, what we also found was when we held focus groups, sometimes people didn't turn up. And that wasn't because I got drunk the night before and was obnoxious to them. No, that's not always the cause and effect. They're just busy people. They didn't get the message. They were not interested. All sorts of reasons. We also use survey results quite a lot to get, again, the student voice. What did we find? We found that where services had their own surveys that were ongoing, the baseline data was a lot more useful than if we sent out surveys separately to get baseline data. However, there were more responses. Those original surveys didn't necessarily ask the questions that we wanted to be asked. So, okay, so we've got surveys, suboptimal focus groups, okay. Student union reps, okay. Students on projects, okay. But it all felt a little bit disparate to me and a little bit reactive at times. So, in 2015, the university had a project, a bigger project, where they recognised that students wanted to have work placements to learn skills and get paid. And so we said, I'll have a student placement, and we'll have 100 hours of free student time. That will be fantastic. And we were really lucky. There were lots of students who were interested in doing this placement, and the person that I recruited was an amazing student called Anna Hook-Kammer, an undergraduate medic. Now, if any of you that have got medical schools in your universities will know how difficult it is to speak to an undergraduate medic, because guess what? They're in lectures 9 till 5, or they're out on placements at a variety and assortment of hospitals across the region. So to have Anna's time, she'd taken some leave of absence due to ill health. She was fine when she worked with us. She was just waiting to restart her course. She was an undergraduate medic. Tick, we like that. We don't get to speak to medics enough. She was incredibly sporty. She was this amazingly fit fell runner. And she had this group of sporty students that she could tap into as part of the work that she did. And also, she was a grade 8 celloist, is a grade 8 celloist, which meant that she also had an amazing set of students that were musical, arty. Not that the two things are mutually exclusive, Anna being point in kind. And we gave her a little bit of training and we set her a project. And the problem statement that Anna came up with was, students at the University of Sheffield suggest that they do not respond to feedback requests from the university due to a variety of factors, including time, relevance, follow-through, and specificity. This means that the responses are often minimal, rushed, or half-hearted. Lack of good feedback from students means the university finds it hard to improve the service it offers. That was the problem that she set herself, with around about 80 hours left to actually unpick that. And what did Anna do? She held focus groups. When she told me what she had planned for her focus group, I nearly had kittens. I said, when are you going to run this focus group, Anna? Oh, it's such and such a day. That's in the middle of exam week. You cannot run a focus group in exam week, Anna. She said, oh, yes, we can. She said, we have a room that's right opposite the learning centre. You do it at lunchtime, you put some sandwiches on, they will come. I was like, oh, I'm going to get told off about this. No, not at all. Anna, with her channels of communication, and it wasn't just her friends that turned up, I was very clear about that. They came, and we had about 50 students attend those focus groups in the middle of exam week. And the feedback they gave us was, this is great because we can get a break. It's not very far from the learning centre, and you're giving us a buddy. What could be better? She also did lots of interviews and also sent out a questionnaire via Facebook to course reps. This time the course reps answered, and again that was my learning, that if we can engage students to put in the requests for further student involvement and engagement, students find that a lot more interesting, appropriate to respond to than if I, as a faceless member of the University Professional Services, might request that. And what were her findings? Her findings were, students felt like giving feedback to the university would take too much time. They didn't value it. Students would be prepared to spend more time giving feedback if they felt strongly about the subject. So we're asking them lots of things about things they don't care about. An example, student registration, first years still register in person. They're not that bothered about improving it, quite frankly. They have bigger issues that they're concerned about. How do I see my tutor? How do I get feedback quicker? The things that daily affect the lives of the student, rather than a one-off horror in intro week. Most students would be happier to give feedback if they felt that their comments were being acted upon. So again, there was this view from students that they were being called to give feedback, and it was either a tick box exercise, or we were just gathering it together as an institution saying, thank you very much for that, we know what we're going to do. And possibly we were guilty of doing that at times. Also, some students were concerned about giving feedback because there were some really dreadful responses that university staff had given to them when they gave constructive feedback. Anna, the wonderful Anna, fed this back to our steering group meeting, which is chaired by our university vice-chancellor. And he questioned her quite actively on that particular point, because you can imagine it was a very hard message to hear. And even though she's 20 years old, and our Vice-Chancellor is a little bit older than that, she stood her ground, she had her facts, she had her data, and was able to actively feedback and challenge his preconceptions of what a nice, friendly institution we are. when it comes to feedback. She also, one of the other things was also about feedback via systems. People want to be able to give feedback quickly, and actually students prefer to do it via their VLE. That is the one system that they feel that they're in all of the time. We have a variety of services and systems, all with a single sign-on at the university, as Chris Sexton alluded to yesterday, but the VLE is still the place that students continually want to go back to and feel that they have some sort of relationship with. Not many of the others, not even email, perhaps especially not email. So I was really, really grateful to Anna for that work and felt quite inspired by it. So this year, wanted to do more, and I wish I had a wonderful, heart-inspiring story for you. It's bits that we've done. So what did we do? I approached the Students' Union, because one of the things that I remember from when I did my research methods module for my master's many moons ago was learning about the importance of triangulating data to give us strong conclusions. So my approach to the Students' Union was, hey guys, we've got all this cool data in the process improvement unit about possible improvement activities, possible projects, changes to services. The NSS results have just come out, which also contains some really good feedback about where we're doing well and where we're not doing so well. But you in the Students' Union contain this data set from staff student committees and other places about what students are really thinking and saying. So can we do an analysis, an exercise, which is currently happening now, of finding where those strong themes are, confirmed by all data sets? Because surely that should help us in setting our direction and our strategy for where, when and how we should start to involve students in our work. The other thing that we have started to do, and again it's the start, is work with one particular faculty that are particularly interested in having students as co-producers of services, to run a workshop initially, which is happening in a week's time, to find out from students why they are coming to staff student committees and complaining about the clocks not working in exam rooms, rather than feeding back about some of the bigger pedagogical concerns that we truly want them to start feeding back into our institution. Not that we shouldn't fix those clocks. I hate not having a clock. But let's actually involve them in that much bigger picture. So I think it's really important, I think it's really exciting, but as I alluded to earlier, I'm fairly humble. I know it's early days for us at Sheffield in doing this kind of work. So, what about you? Ignore that number because that's wrong, but I want you to get out your mobile devices and I want you to go to kahoot.it. And when you get to kahoot.it, you'll be asked to put in a game pin. So that is the game pin, 6235885. We've got one player, yes. 2, 3. This is going better than expected already. Okay. Oh. Let's start. So, engaging students. we've got 5 questions here for you. So, your first question is, do you have student representatives on your projects, that affect students, so projects that affect students? You should have some symbols on your phone for never, sometimes, increasingly, or always. And you have 20 seconds to answer. No. Interesting. 3 say never, 11 say always, and the beautiful bell curve in the middle. Next question. Do you hold focus groups with students to get feedback on processes, services and ideas for improvement? How we get on there. So, again, never, fewer in the always, which might say something more about focus groups itself, and mainly we've got people sometimes doing it. Thank you. 3 more questions to go. Are students actively involved in project prioritisation in your department or institution? Are we doing projects that are important to students? Few, yes, sometimes. Show of hands, who thinks we should involve students in project prioritisation? Okay, thank you. Next question. Are your students actively involved in service code design? Time up. 1. Who's the 1? Meredith. Ah, excellent. And final question. Are students actively involved in system or app testing in your institution? And I mean actively throughout the testing process. Excellent. So I can see from the data that we're getting sometimes, and certainly that's what's happening at Sheffield. We are sometimes doing it, and I think as a group of practitioners and professionals, we need to start putting some thought into how we can start having the green box for always, for an awful lot of our student-focused projects. Are there a quick bit of feedback from people? Are there any other activities that you're particularly proud of where you're actively engaging students in co-production or anything else to get interesting feedback? Yes.
We have an increasing student workforce for purely economic reasons at the start, but that's being put into a participation and partnership plan across the university, and we intend to use our increasing student workforce in active testing and that as we move into a mature setup. And furthermore, we'll be giving them not just the sort of pay at the end of the month sort of thing, but depending on what they're doing, we're looking at accreditation to work with us.
Excellent, because that's something that I'm really concerned about on a moral basis, that we are using students as free labour rather than getting students to do a job. Mostly it's a job, so paying people and rewarding people is really important. And I also think that we need to put in steps to ensure that not a single student that gets involved in continuous improvement or service improvement should be adversely affected within their academic studies as a consequence of doing that. They should not have to take one for the team when they're doing this. Anything else?
Sorry, it's not a comment actually, but it'd be helpful to know where that document is from.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry?
Where are you from?
Brunel University.
Brunel. Anybody else got some lovely stories to share?
I'm going to echo the same topic, except I've just realised we actually employ more students, or I employ more students than I have staff.
Wow.
We pay them, and pay them much better than the minimum, actually better than living wage, principally to get a friendly face for the department. So
Yeah.
when students, when people go for help, even for staff, what they see first is the student.
Excellent. Thank you. We're running out of time, so I will collar various people shortly. My question is... That's me. No. My question is, I think it's really, really important to pay or reward students for their involvement in our activities. How do we make sure that that is a representative sample of students? I like to do questions and answers slightly differently, as you can see. So my question to you, the audience, is how do we make sure we get representative samples from those students that we employ? And you can't go for lunch until somebody answers it. So, thank you.
So one of the things we do at Leicester, if we are involving students, large numbers of students, for example in focus groups, we'll work closely with Unitemps to offer that opportunity out and try and get a range of students from across all 3 colleges and different departments, and also try and involve distance learning students as well. And that seems to work.
Excellent. Oh, hang on, wait for the mic.
Thank you. Alison Harper, Glasgow University. We've also identified home students as a distinct set that we need to consider carefully, in addition to the categories of different colleges, rest of UK, international, but home students are a distinct category.
So that awareness of what your distinct categories are is
Yep.
really critical.
Yep.
Anyone else? I can see. Sorry. This poor man has suffered as a result of my ideas all morning.
Sorry, it's me again.
Good.
This is where I need to ask help. We're self-selecting on student helpers because we pick student helpers who are outgoing people who will talk to others, and of course we completely don't represent any of the students who are shy and retiring. We're not interested in paying them because they're not going to help other students, which means we never hear their viewpoint because they won't volunteer. So if anyone figures out how to fix that, would somebody say? Because I don't know how to do that.
Well, introverted, retiring students might be more open working with the social networks, on Twitter or on the Facebook, through the internet, more than one-to-face interaction.
Yeah. Excellent. So I'm going to wrap this up now. So I just wanted to thank you, but also ask you to, if we can just keep the channels of communication open. I'm really, really keen to learn from all of you. As you've noticed, I do not have all the answers. I have more questions than answers. So anything that you can do to help or share would be gratefully received. Thank you very much.